first of all, most people don't actually really recognize that it's a big part in their life. And one of the biggest ways that you can find out what's going on in someone's head is by listening to the dialogue that they have going on. And what that means is that what are the power of the words that you use inside your mind? Are they just chatter? Do they really matter? Do they have any impact? Or, are they completely powerful? What is the answer? And the answer is pretty clear, because there's certain phenomena that happens with us that shows that the power of the voice and the power of the mind is way beyond comprehension. So things like the placebo effect. The placebo effect is when someone thinks something, they will have, like, for instance, an idea that they're going to get better by taking a placebo, and because they think they're going to get better and the expectation is that they're going to improve, they do. And that's why placebos are 80% more effective than most pharmaceutical drugs, because it actually is the power of the mind and what your expectation is that can dictate your outcomes. So with the power of things like your health, why is it that people don't actually lasso this thing that goes on in their head? Because we all have it. And today I done a visualization, a deep trance visualization, which is a technique to essentially find what you actually want in life, what drives you, and really what your purpose is. The reason for doing this is that if you want to set a clear goal, you want to set a clear vision, you really need to have that in alignment with who you are and what actually drives you and what motivates you. So for instance, if you had a clear goal to serve the world and do good and be a volunteer, you wouldn't necessarily want to work in an investment bank where it's all about profit. And likewise, if you were wanting to become as wealthy as possible, you wouldn't want to necessarily set up a volunteering role. So you need to match what you want to do with the outcomes that you're looking for and really what connects with you. So when you're doing these things in life, like, how is it you can harness this internal voice? Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to do an audit, which is, what are you saying to yourself? And lots of people have that negative self-talk. You can be your worst critic, your worst nightmare, your worst enemy. You can come across in this sort of mothering tone where it's like, yeah, you shouldn't do this because if things are getting hard. Or it can come across as, what's the point in doing this? And a very defeatist. And then there's other things that you can say to yourself in the opposite vein, which is things like, come on, dig in, you can keep going, you can push through, you can get there. Or, look, just focus on this part and you can keep going. Things that drive you forward. So how is it that we're led into this idea that we can just listen to this negative self-chatter? And I think a big part of it is our environment. So from a point of view of our upbringing, we tend to listen to people that are around us. And if we're around people that are negative, we can pick up some of their language patterns. When you have these language patterns, they can be, you think that they're nothing. When you just say things like, someone like me won't be able to do that, or I just can't do it. And you think that doesn't really have impact. And it actually goes deeply within your brain, and you start to believe this to be true. Just the same way, a bit in the reverse of the placebo effect, in that you can get caught up in this way of just sort of believing what you're saying. And this comes back to essentially beliefs is how you see the world. So you have a belief about things, and if a big part of your beliefs are the things that you're saying to yourself, it's really, really, really important to monitor what you say. So one of the first things to do is an internal voice audit, and that way you can find out the type of language that you're using. And a great example from today was the client that done the deep trance visualization. Before we started, we went through a sort of finding out what it was that they were wanting to get. Well, what's the outcome that you want here? He says, look, I just feel stuck because I'm neither in the past nor in the future, and I can't really see into the future. I can't really see what I want because I'm just here. I think the sentence was, I just find it extremely difficult to set a goal. So what I did is I said, write that down. Write it down and put the time next to it. Before we do this work, I'm going to take you on a little journey in your mind, and we're going to create a vision for the future. And by the end of it, I want you to have a look at what you've wrote down. So after 30 minutes, we went on this extremely vivid, extremely bright, and extremely enthusiastic adventure where you can project what it might look like if you had the ultimate year or two of your life. Where would you be? Who would you be with? What would your network be like? What does success look like? How does it feel to be financially free? How, who's in your network? Who's in your team? How big have you expanded? What, how many sales have you got? Whatever the metrics are, you can build it to suit whatever it is that you want. How do you look? How do your loved ones see you? Who are you inspiring? That type of thing. And these are the things that really, really make people tick. And then after 30 minutes on this huge, vivid, graphic, detailed visualization of what the future would be like. And then we've done a timeline where we worked out, what does it look at 2 years out? What does it look at a year out? What does it look like 9 months out? What does it look like 6 months out? And the idea is that any goal that you're looking to achieve is never made up of one giant leap. It's made up of many small steps. So what you want to do is actually take the big, huge gap that you have between where you're at today and where you would like to be. And instead of trying to do it in one big go, break it up into little segments. And then when you do that, what you have is much more manageable tasks and things that you can change as you go and adapt. Because you might not have the experience now to do a particular thing. You might need to gain that experience, but that experience might not be 24 months to get that experience. It might be a month or two. So you can set your targets to suit so that you're actually starting to make progress. And when you make progress, an important thing happens. When you do, you get extremely motivated because you find the art or the knack of setting a goal, accomplishing it, and feeling good about it is actually a great feeling because you feel a sense of growth, a sense of purpose, and you feel that you're working towards the thing that you set out to do. And this is why it's so important and so critical to know the language that you're using inside of your mind. How many people do you know that have said, oh, what's the point? Or I just can't be bothered, or I'm too tired, or, people like me don't get this and all this sort of thing. It's like, it's so negative and damaging to this momentum building machine that is inside your mind to create this energy to move towards the goals that you want.